I'm here today with Bernadette McClelland. She's the author of a new book. It's called Shift and Disrupt. Stop selling widgets, start selling wisdom, and unlock the future of B2B selling with mindset, mental models, more meaning, and money. Anybody up for that today? Welcome, Bernadette. It's so great to have you. You're a good friend, and I'm always thrilled about the content that you create. This is, one of my favorite books that I've seen this year, and I'm really excited to dive into it a little bit today.
Thanks, Laurie. It's awesome to be here with you, sharing some ideas.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say about this book is that I believe that it's brought all your gifts together because you had a background where you worked for Tony Robbins, for example. You learned all about coaching and the power of coaching and the power of mental models and the power of mindset and and storytelling. And I just feel like you've brought it all together with storytelling, and it's really been wonderful to watch. I'm amazed at the models that are in the book. And for anyone who wants to really learn this, Bernadette actually even has a workbook that she shares. And I don't know if that's for certain purchases or if that's great. That was in the book. I think I read that you.
Yeah, that QR code takes you to the resource page where there is a 44-page workbook to download and a swipe file of the mental models.
Amazing. Who does that? That's so amazing that you do that.
Yeah, well, and I guess going back to what you said, bringing my gifts together. I mean, yes, personal leadership, sales leadership, and thought leadership. And the personal leadership side, I was working with Anthony Robbins. Outside of Anthony Robbins, I had gone to school, so to speak, the coaching school in Australia, where I got my diploma in all things executive coaching, business coaching, sales coaching, life coaching, you name it. And that's why part of the book, a component of the book, which we'll kind of go into shortly, delves into my belief that salespeople need to be able to go to market coaching their buyer through change, not selling product. And so there's definitely skills that you need to be able to sell without a doubt. But when you can overlay that with the ability to coach your buyer through change, I call it the coach approach. That's key. And yes, I was fortunate to work with Anthony Robbins and his elite clients across Asia Pacific. So really getting inside the heads of leaders, CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs, and understanding the sabotaging stories that they tell themselves and that we all tell ourselves. It speaks to the internal stories in the book.
So let's talk about story selling a little bit. How do you define it?
So if you think about the fact that our oldest form of communication is story, and our oldest form of commerce is selling, it made sense to me to create this portmanteau, bring these two words together and create a philosophy, create a concept. And when I went searching for story selling and did a Google search, the things that came up were storytelling. There were entries for story selling, but it referred to marketing, brand management, presentation skills. And there was nothing that I could find that spoke to the B2B sales profession. So I thought about this and I thought, well, okay, we've got this concept of story and selling, but I didn't want it to be the typical storytelling work. I didn't want to create a body of work that was around storytelling because you've got some amazing masters of that out there in the world today. And so I thought, and I brought together, the people that I've coached, not just through Tony Robbins, naturally, but also through corporate and working with sales leaders in the B2B, enterprise space, small business space. I've done a lot of work with the thought leaders global community in Australia over the years. So working with Matt Church there, really identifying how to simplify the complex, how to actually get ideas and put them into a format that was graphical, that was visual.
Yes. That's why I love it, because I'm very visual. So, and I know a lot of people are, and I'm not the only one.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And when you can do that, it actually contributes to decision making. It speeds decision making up, because when you think about the fact that 83% of what we process is visual, 11% is auditory, when we're telling stories, traditional storytelling, who's doing all the talking?
One person.
One person, and that's the salesperson. And so the buyer sits there in listen mode. And if you think about the fact that only 11% we process. So my whole thinking was, okay, how can I tap into 3 different story mode categories? How can I tap into those sabotaging stories we all tell ourselves? How can I reframe storytelling to be visual so that we can co-create a solution with our buyer?
With our buyer. So it's not telling the buyer the story.
It's not telling, it's sitting on the same side. It's not even collaboration. I talk about collaboration, but I think since I've written the book, my thinking, and here's the thing, our thinking should always be evolving, is really more co-creating. And so to be able to sit down with your buyer, grab a napkin if you're having a coffee, grab a whiteboard marker if you're in a boardroom, listen for their stories, seek out their stories, and be able to elicit their stories so that you can tell those stories graphically in a mental model. And so they'll sit there and it doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be right. It provides the opportunity for dialogue. And it's then the conversation deepens. And that's my whole thinking is businesses today want 3 things from their buyers, from their sellers. They want their salespeople to elevate the level of connection. How do we get in front of the right person? How do we deepen our conversations? Because that's what our buyers want. And I think when you can elevate your connections and deepen your conversations, you accelerate your conversions. And so that's the beta model that I first drew on a piece of paper over a coffee. And I thought, okay, how can we build this out? And what happens at the intersections of each of those? Like, what's the real root cause of each of these not happening?
Right.
For the seller. And that's how the book was born.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And in a time when people are fearful, I mean, I'm hearing that out in the marketplace that managers are not as motivating as they maybe were previously. We're in a tighter economy, and there's just some, turnover and things that have happened that people didn't expect to happen. So people are a little more fearful. And I think this is a perfect time to bring this out where they can learn and really get involved. You talk about 9 story selling modes, right? And they fit within the 3
categories, 3 buckets.
Yeah. Internal, external, and essential.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So if we go back to, the root cause of why this connection and conversation and conversions aren't happening, it's like, well, and you're right, you've got sales leaders that they don't know how to coach their sales teams at that level of addressing internal stories. How do you, if you haven't got the skill set or the tools or even the language, and you've got salespeople that have identity crisis, almost, I won't say identity crisis because that's a bit dramatic, but, the way that they view their identity as a salesperson and that fear of going out to market and, what do I say? Am I going to sound like a salesperson? I don't want to sound like a salesperson. What am I supposed to do? And then you've got how they show up. And then there's 2 other internal stories that I delved a bit, deep into is the authority. And how do you demonstrate your expertise to someone in authority? And authority, if you think about it, we've all grown up where we had to obey the teacher, the doctor, the priest. the policeman. And so we are now in the corporate world, and there's somebody that has CEO on their door.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter if they're younger than you or not. So there's this whole thing around authority and decision making. And then the third internal story is around money. And how do you express your value, and how do you express value? So, they are the three internal stories. And coming back to your point about, change and fear, and how does a sales leader address those with someone in their team, where you're just speaking to a leaderboard or you're speaking to a KPI? It's a whole different thought process. And I think that's what I wanted to bring out in the whole book, is tapping into thought leadership.
Yeah. And buyers are taking longer to make decisions in a lot of cases. It's harder to reach buyers. There's no question. People don't answer their phones for the most part. So that means it's a multifaceted outreach that you have to do. And I think it's frustrating a lot of people. People are confused about, and you said that earlier, some confusion going on. This can lay out a good plan, kind of like a roadmap, don't you think, to help?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And do you have to use all 9 modes? No. But it's definitely a roadmap. And, the middle 3 stories, which are what I refer to as the external stories. This is where it gets a little different. Yeah, sure. You can tell origin stories, and you can tell connection stories and success stories and case study stories and all the rest of it. But you want to bring something unique to the table where you are speaking the buyer's story. And, there's 3 different models that I refer to, which are 3 different story modes. One is, how do you guide change? How do you guide your buyer through change? Because all of us aspire to growth, and all of us aspire to being more. And your buyer does as well. And we talk about the buyer's journey and the seller's journey, but that is just still so product focused.
Yeah.
And so if you understand that your buyer has internal reasons for change, how do you scope that? How do you scope that out on a model that is a progression ladder, for example? And once again, you get buy-in or you get discussion, but that will always demonstrate why change must happen. So a story that is based on progression model is always why change. A 2x2, and all of us know different 2x2s, and Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, you've got, the Eisenhower matrix. A 2x2 will always demonstrate what needs to change. So when you can sit with a buyer and you are listening for certain things, and you just say, hey, listen, this is what I'm thinking, and you just scope out immediately a 2x2, once again, you're co-creating what must have to change.
And then it's like, I think of that like a 4-box model.
A 4-box, yeah.
By 2. I love that.
Absolutely. A 2x2 matrix. So a 4x4, yeah. And so when you can kind of populate that with your buyer, that's super powerful. And the third external story is based on its integration. And that is always a Venn diagram is always a how change happens. So do you have to do all 3 with the buyer? Absolutely not. You can just pick and choose. And it's a little bit like, the cooking shows. We've just kind of baked this.
That.
So, and this is the whole thing. If you know enough about your buyer at a strategic and deeper level, then you will be able to build this prior and then tweak it on the fly with the buyer. And so you then show up as a true thought leader. I think trusted advisor is an old term now, and it's just been thrown around too often that it's lost some value. I think now you need to really show up as a respected industry resource. And this is one way I think that we can all do it.
I like that, respected industry resource.
An RIR.
Yeah, I like RIR.
If you're into acronyms, it's an RIR.
Word. It even has a sound. So let's talk about the coach approach just a little more in the minutes that we have left. How is that different? Because I think coaching is very overused. People have said for years that they coach your salespeople. And we know that totally the case. What for you is coaching?
Yeah, that is a really good question. So we know the difference, or maybe we don't. Some don't. So I'll just share the difference. You have at one end, you have your therapist.
Yeah.
and at the other end, you've got, it could be a teacher. It doesn't, it doesn't really matter. And somewhere in the middle on the spectrum, you've got a coach and a mentor. And a coach, in the true, if you're a purist coach, you're going to say, well, I need to ask the question so that my client comes up with their own answers.
Right.
And so that is true. That is a pure coaching methodology based on questions. And there is, there's a group of questions that coaches use. Very powerful, I've got to add. A mentor is somebody who has done what you're doing in the past, and they will show you what they've done. I think sales leaders today, we talk about coaching, like I'm going to be coaching my salespeople. I think that they fall into reviews. I think that falls into either running sales meetings, doing reviews, training them on products, doing role plays maybe. But I think what's missing, and I've just, I'm working with a bunch of senior sales leaders at the moment and, really digging in with each of them individually into what coaching looks like for their particular team. They all come to the table with something different. So you can't just do a cookie cutter. But it is very much, this salesperson's got issues with this. This salesperson's got issues with that. It could be just forecasting, or it could be running late all day. It could be something completely like that. Or it could be that their pipeline's bloated, it's stuck, and I don't know how to get them to the next step. Well, there is an internal story stopping that salesperson. Right. And so how does a sales manager or sales leader whose remit is there to purely operate and manage and lead the dollars, and they haven't had that psychology, they haven't had that training, and so they're doing the best they can. And so guiding,
they're missing it, right? That's why training doesn't work, because we can teach all these ideas, but if deep down I'm not confident in my approach, I have trouble asking for something, or I'm worried about the customer liking me, that will sabotage what our best intentions.
Absolutely. And when I talk about authority, why can't you get in to see this decision maker? Just under 25% of people have a fear of authority. Now you run that across the whole sales world, or even just your business, and 1 in 4 people is going to have difficulty getting an appointment with the C-level. So how do you help them? How do you identify that? And that is where the coach approach comes in, not just for the sales leader with the salesperson, but the salesperson with the buyer.
Yeah. Yes. That's great. There's a lot of coaching that needs to be taught.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So as you can see, the book touches on personal leadership, thought leadership, and sales leadership.
Yes, that's wonderful. So what's the best way? Do you want people to go to Amazon to get it? I know that can they do a bulk purchase if they want it for broadly their organization?
Yeah, definitely. And sales leaders are doing that. So shiftanddisrupt.com, that's the name of the book, shiftanddisrupt.com. And yes, there's bonuses there for sales leaders. If you want to go to Amazon, go to Amazon. And yeah.
All right. So it's shiftanddisrupt.com to get more about this amazing body of work. I'm so proud of what you've done, Bernadette. It's wonderful. And I think it's going to really help a lot of companies, a lot of sales teams.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. And to those sellers out there and sales leaders, I'm about to walk my talk, and this will be a game changer from a prospecting angle as well. So watch this space.
That's fantastic. So we will be watching. Thank you to Bernadette McClelland. It's Shift and Disrupt.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, shiftanddisrupt.com, and we'll keep watching you on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Beautiful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.